And in Formula 3, expecting a certain rookie, maybe from Spain, perhaps, to do so well?
Oh, it's so well prompted. This podcast is so well run.
Hello and welcome to the F1 Feeder Series podcast, your guide to keeping up to date on everything in the junior single-seater world. I'm your host, Jim Kimberley, and I am delighted to finally say these words. It is race week. And I say that with the utmost respect for F4, Formula Regional, and Indy Lights, all of which we've spoken about on the podcast, but they are merely appetizers for the main Feeder Series courses of Formula 2 and Formula 3. So, in celebration, joining me to feast to preview the season opening round, I have three people who are perhaps even hungrier than I am. I'm delighted to welcome Alex Jacques, Pepe Marti, and of course, Floris Visman. Firstly, a face known to many, but a voice known to all. How are you, Alex, and how's the winter break treated you?
I'm glad it's done because I don't know about you guys, but I always get somewhere through February and go, right, I could really do with some motor racing back now. And that would apply if I had this job or I didn't have this job. But yeah, halfway through this, people are like, oh yeah, I'm glad I knew the voice and not the face. Like, oh, he looks like that. It's all, like, people always say the voice doesn't match the face. And I was like, but what would be a face that matched this be? I'm not sure I want the answer to that.
But you're raring to get going with more commentary. So you're doing Formula 1, Formula 2, and W Series this year, right?
That is correct. I've limited myself this year so that I can carry on in the future and not basically have some sort of mad old meltdown, because it was a privilege to cover all the championships, but eventually you have to be a human the rest of the year and not just say yes to every single race that you could possibly do. So that is what I have done.
It was a privilege listening to you, so you'll be sorely missed, although Harry's going to step well into your shoes, I expect, in Formula 3. Speaking of Formula 3, joining us officially for the first time, although his exploits in Formula Regional Asia means his name has been frequently mentioned before on the podcast, Pepe Marti. How is the FRAC vice champion today?
Very good. I was going to say that, Alex, if you thought your winter break was a bit boring, you should have come over to the UAE, because it was quite hot. It was good weather. It was actually very nice, and the racing was very good, I have to admit. So yeah, it was very, very, very nice. So
I'm trying to give races up. What are you doing? You're trying to sign me up to more races.
Great to have you on, Pepe. And as ever, Floris, back with us after letting Charlie take over for the F3 preview episode. Have you recovered from your karting injury, or did your shock gasping at the Piastri McLaren news after his appearance last week trigger any new pains?
Wow, that was a mouthful, Jim. No, I have not recovered. I feel just as bad as a week ago, so thanks for asking. But I'm powering through this, and it'll probably be fine in 2-3 weeks. I should just learn to drive,
Yeah, and for those of you who are listening for the first time, Floris had a karting incident in which he's presumably cracked a rib. Needs to get some advice from Pepe, who's pointing his finger knowingly at that ceiling.
The technique is to grab a rib. What's it called? I think it's called rib protector. Yeah, rib protector. Rib protector is basic. If anytime, just advice. Anytime you go with mates to rental karting, bring a rib protector. Yeah. Every single time.
Thank you for being a week too late. But yeah, great. You should have been there last week.
Pepe Marti is doubling as Captain Hindsight for this episode. Great to know. Great to know for the next time.
And don't make me laugh too hard, because that also hurts.
Okay.
But first, a quick reminder to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're old school and listening to the audio-only version, please leave a review on whatever podcast platform you're using. It really does help us out. Guys, the season's about to start. Let's go with you first, Alex. This weekend, this season, what are you most excited about on both Formula 2 and Formula 3?
Ooh, I would say with Formula 2, I'm delighted we've got the right format again. And I'm excited to see whether drivers who were basically providing themselves, I'm thinking Liam Lawson and Teo Pourchaire, it's not quite a hit and hope in that first year, but given the format was so different, I always thought it was going to be maybe tough for us to have a rookie champion. And what do we have? We had a rookie champion. He was absolutely exceptional. So they've watched it happen. They've got another go, but now there's expectation. This is the Guan Yu Zhou problem, isn't it? Of you go in and you have a good first season, then there's major expectation for your second. So I love that dynamic of those drivers. And then you've got Dennis Hauger just desperate to roar through and do a Piastri. And I think that dynamic between the second year and the quick rookie, that is what I'm looking forward to seeing play out.
And in Formula 3, expecting a certain rookie, maybe from Spain, perhaps, to do so well?
Oh, it's so well prompted. This podcast is so well run. I basically, with Formula 3, hoping that it's a tight title battle between multiple teams. That's what I'm looking for. In the Drivers' Championship, I want it wide open between multiple teams. That is my first and only hope for F3 this year.
Well, Pepe Marti, you may be able to help with that a little bit. What are you expecting from your first year in Formula 3 and going a little bit further up, Formula 2?
Well, Formula 3, I think, is going to be probably my first year. It's going to be my toughest year in my career so far because competition is incredibly high. I mean, it's outrageous how many good drivers are in this grid. So it's I'm just looking forward to trying to learn as much as possible. I mean, it's going to be, like you said, probably open wide through many teams, many drivers. I mean, Hadja, for example, was incredibly strong in pre-season testing, but for example, in Valencia, it wasn't so quick. So it's going to be interesting to see who's got very good start to the season, who's going to have a better good start, who's going to have a better ending, who's going to progress through the season. So I think it's all going to come down to who is the most consistent. Because, for example, if you look back to the last season in this format, Piastri won with one victory. So I think it's all just going to come down to whoever is as consistent as ever. So yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to be quite tight. And for F2, I'm hoping that Ralph continues on how he ended last year. I'm not even joking. If he continues where he left off, I think he's a complete title challenger. I mean, he was really, really strong at the end. He just needs to, I think, be, judging by how the races went, he just needs to be a little bit more confident in himself. And I think he's going to be up there. Like, he had so much pace. And I think if you see it this year's grid and last year's grid, I think they're very equal. There's a lot of really good talents, a lot of very good rookies, a lot of more, you could say, mature and older drivers. So we're going to see how it goes. I mean, I hope obviously one of the drivers from my team wins, but we'll see. I mean, it's going to be wide open from many different drivers.
Well, Ralph Boschung was the Josh Revel unexpected title contender, as we heard a few episodes ago at Floris. How about yourself? We've heard you speak about Formula 2 quite a bit, about Formula 3 though.
Yeah, Formula 3. So I've been thinking about this a little bit today. And they're just like, Formula 2, for me, it's pretty easy. You have 2 or 3 contenders, like Pourchaire and Lawson, for instance. But F3, you have maybe 2 full teams, like with Trident and Prema, and even Victor Martens, who I think is getting really strong and is also pretty experienced. So the title battle in F3, I really have no clue. It could be Leclerc, because he had a very good preseason, as Pepe knows, of course. He won a lot. He has a year of experience, so it might be him. But on the other hand, there's this super talent called Oliver Behrman. And what can he do in his first year? Can he do, what what Oscar Piastri did? Who knows? Maybe.
We need to bring back a little bit rather than the whole season and just focus on Bahrain, because we are going into the opening round. Alex, we've seen the drivers already spend time there. and we're going back to Formula 2 and Formula 3 sharing a weekend. Formula 2 first, though. Who are you expecting to do well, particularly at Bahrain?
It's an interesting one with Bahrain, isn't it? Because sometimes you can find a way through to victory in the sprint race when you're not really dialed in. This is the old Charles Leclerc example from back in 2017. And it's now become the way to do it. Oh, pit stop in the sprint race. Yeah, that's the way to do it. The one thing that we had with the format last year is that almost race one was a warm-up. I can say that now. They've changed it. It's fine. I'll deal with the block caps emails tomorrow. But they were so conservative in the first sprint races that you then waited until the nighttime race, and that's one of the best F2 races of the modern era. Well, that's where we are now. We're just going to jump straight into race two. So the thing about Bahrain is you've obviously got a really unusual tyre picture compared to the rest of the season. And then you've got the drivers who can drive around it. If you master, though, and I'm not entirely sure we've ever seen that, but if you can master the tyre deg in Bahrain and you're totally on top of it, Virtuosi did it one year where they were just so far ahead of everyone else with their understanding of the rubber that year. It was just clear they were going to be quick more often than not. So you can get an indicator that way. For the rookies, keep it clean. Get yourself in the right part of the reverse grid section of qualifying. Play yourself in. Don't have to do anything dramatic at all. For those who need a strong start, need to, set things off. I'm thinking your second yearers. You have to, they're the ones with the target on the back of a race like that, and that's where I think you can. I want to say Robert Schwartzman because I feel very sorry for Robert Schwartzman given where he looked like his career was going and the circumstances he finds himself in now. But Schwartzman, I found last year, Piastri got that foothold, Piastri kept that foothold, and then we know what happened.
Yeah, Floris, Alpine stole the show a little bit last year in Formula 2 at Bahrain. Would you expect something like that to happen this year with one of these academies just dominating?
I'm not sure about that. But what I do think is that, and it of course, it makes sense that as an experienced driver and being in a top team, like, for example, Prema, that will give you an advantage, like in the earlier rounds, unless you're like Piastri, who he doesn't play by the rules. He just dominated the whole year. But so I'd say like this weekend it's probably going to be Deruvala, Pourchaire, or Lawson. And actually Lawson he won on debut here last year.
Yeah,
that was amazing. So maybe he's the biggest contender, and he's with Carlin, which who are not doing great anywhere except in F2 actually. So. Yeah, those three names, I would watch them, and then during the season, of course, that can change.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about the season in a moment, and just a thought from you, Pepe, just with regarding to this weekend and drivers to look out for. Are you expecting any one of these drivers to come in and dominate as rookies, or do you think it is going to be second or third yearers?
To be honest, I think Lawson has the upper hand going into the race. I mean, he dominated preseason tests by a mile. I mean, he was 4 tenths down the road from it. Was, if you see preseason testing times, it was amazing. It was Lawson 4 tenths, 5 tenths down the road, and then it was everyone in like 2 tenths. So it was. He probably found something with the setup. Probably found something that he was very comfortable with. So yeah, I mean, if they have the same balance during the race weekend, I don't think he can be very challenged. But I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see. I mean, there's for sure somebody going very far overweight. There's somebody going to be going very, very maybe slower than they can in preseason testing. So I mean, we're gonna see. There's obviously sandbagging as well in Formula 2 and Formula 3. So we'll see how it is.
Got confirmation from an F3 driver about the dirty cheating tactics of trying to slow people down there. But no, we understand why it has to happen. It's part of all the fun and games before the season starts, trying to guess where people are. So maybe Lawson isn't as strong as we may think. But Pepe, what do you think about a Formula 2 title challenge from Lawson? Do you think he's your pick for the title this year, or do you have somebody else?
If I'm honest, I don't really know. I don't have eyes on anyone. I think it's going to be, like you said at the beginning, both of you, Forrest and Alex, I think it's going to be very wide open. I mean, definitely Lawson's a contender, but I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see how Doohan adapts to obviously driving in tracks where he hasn't driven before. He hasn't, like, obviously he drove an F3 last year and he did the last 2 rounds of F2, but he didn't drive the whole season, so he's for sure not going to be familiar with some of the tracks. So we're going to have to see how they do. You know, they're rookies, so yeah, I think it's real mystery going into round 1.
Anybody from you, Alex? As Pepe quite rightly says, Doohan's coming in not as a full rookie, but that partial rookie status. Anybody from you who you think may surprise this year? And is there anybody in particular who you think is going to be the champion come the end of the season?
Oh, I'm not sure you'll get a champion prediction out of me, but I think that if Teo Porcher was able to make a fast start, we saw last couple of years flashes of speed, brilliance in Monaco last year, but in Formula 3, he really came good at the end. If he got a good, firm foundation, I think it would be, he looks to me like a driver who will just gain in confidence and just get a bit of momentum. He's a momentum driver. If he was to win early on, say he's got 1 feature race victory in the first 3 rounds, I would probably put him in the favourite box. Carlin are very, very good out the box, and then the other teams seem to catch them up as the weekend goes through. So that's something always to look at. They do amazing prep at Carlin. I'm intrigued to see how Felipe Drugovich goes at MP Motorsport, especially at Bahrain, because he could maybe come into that surprise contender category. Yes, he's got lots of experience there. He's gone back to the team where he won 3 races and dominated 3 races when he won them. They were not, you know, it was not a tight battle to the line. When he wins races, he checks out. So I'm interested to see whether going back to MP Motorsport brings back the Drugovich of old.
Yeah, it just didn't really click at Virtuosi in the end. I think a lot of people went in with the expectation of it going to be pretty good. Just a word from you as well, Alex. Vest is joining ART, and we kind of see ART have a hero and zero approach with their seats. Is that a curse, or do you think that's something we might actually see both ARTs do well this year?
Let me just read from my pre-prepared statement. I don't know what you're talking about. Thanks so much for your question. Yes, there is a historical curiosity there with ART. I hope not, because Frederick Vesti's very quick. He proved that in a couple of seasons of F3. Last year, just a year to forget. You get that. But on the junior ladder, you get one of those. You get 1 season. If you're lucky, for some people's careers, that's it. It's over. 1 bad year, and so he's still with the driver program. They've shown a lot of faith to keep faith with him, given the quality of everyone else who's been through that driver program. And I don't know. It would just be a little bit heartbreaking if he was going to be. We know he's got talent. I want to see the talent, and you don't want to see disparity between cars.
Floris, we know that you are championing Porsche for this year. Moving to Formula 3, though, because you missed our preview show. How about there? You've gone and spoken a little bit about how it's a little difficult to go between so many drivers, but if I was to push you for a name.
Yeah, if you make me choose, put a gun to my head, I'd say Leclerc, because he's a second-year driver. And he had the great Formula Regional Asia season. So it has to be the combination of that and driving for Prema, and then maybe being coupled with Crawford, who's still having trouble making good starts. For instance, he has so much. That is his biggest problem. Crawford always has bad starts, and then he has to make up places. And Behrman, his other teammate, I don't know what to expect. He could pull a Piastri and he could win. He could also have like an adjusting year. I really don't know. So if I'd have to put my money on someone, it would be Leclerc, and maybe as a dark horse, I'm not sure. Johnny Edgar, the Red Bull Junior at Trident. Trident is team's champion, of course. So yeah, he might be my dark horse. But if I have to say who'd win it, I think Leclerc.
And for this weekend, Floris, going into a race where, Formula 3's welcome return, I'd call it, to Bahrain after missing last year. Do you think any of these rookie drivers are going to be in with a shout of winning, or do you think it's actually going to be most likely to be a Leclerc, somebody who's been racing in the winter, perhaps?
Leclerc, yeah, again, makes most sense to me. But if it's going to be a rookie, it has to be Behrman for me. Yeah, what he did in ARC F4 and Italian F4, he won those two, which is unprecedented, which is crazy. Nobody wins those two in a year, like the biggest F4 championship. So we know he can drive, and he also made his debut in GB3 last year. He did Formula Regional Asia a couple of races. So he's like, for a rookie and a young rookie like he is, he's super prepared. He did a lot of testing. So, yeah.
Pepe, do you need to step out a moment, get some tissues to wipe away the tears from Floris overlooking you there, or are you okay?
No, not at all. No,
in all seriousness, though, you're going into this, as I was alluding to with Floris, as somebody who has raced during the winter. Are you feeling well prepared for this year? What are you expecting for 2022?
Yeah, I definitely think I don't have a lack of preparation going into the season. I mean, obviously, I'm the only person going into this year that only has 1 year of experience in single seaters and is 16. But I don't think that is a bad thing. I think it's just a challenge, and I have to accept the challenge and try to make the most of it. I mean, it's obviously going to be difficult. I know that. I know it's going to be tough. But I mean, yeah, I had a really good season in Asia, so I'm hoping to build up on that and just keep the momentum going.
And for those of you who aren't so familiar, which shouldn't be the case because everybody should have been listening from the very first episode of the podcast, a bit of a background on you. So you competed in F4 UAE last year, 2021, won a race. Then Spanish F4, did well, a couple of victories, third place in the championship. And then without even securing a win this year in Formula Regional Asia, you've got vice champion behind the well-known Arthur Leclerc. How have you viewed that step up, as you say, to 1 year of single-seater racing?
Well, it was a very big step. I mean, obviously, I think Delano, for example, who did a F4 with me in Spain and UAE, I think he had quite a lot more testing going into the season than I did. I only had couple of tests going into the year, and I mean, UAE was obviously a bit disappointing. I mean, it came 7th in the championship. I had like 6 or 7 DNFs just because of bad luck most of the time. But I mean, it was just that, it was a preparation, same as Formula Regional Asian this year. And I mean, F4 Spain was quite good. So I think I was probably one of the quickest. In my opinion, I was the quickest at the end of the season. It's just I didn't capitalize on my opportunities. So, for example, Navarra, I had the worst qualifying of probably my career, and I started from the back, so I lost that round completely. And then, other times, I mean, I stalled 4 times. All of them in the top 4, so it's great, fantastic. But I mean, apart from that, it was a great season. I mean, in Valencia, where it's a track where you normally don't overtake, I overtook 17 cars, so it was obviously. I mean, it was a good season. Obviously, it's a bit of a shame I didn't even get second in the championship because I think I really had the speed to do so, and we as a team performed really well. But it was a very good first year adapting. In the adaptation to single seaters, and hopefully this year goes as well as last year did.
Yeah, for a first year in single seaters, extremely well. And then just one final note from you, Pepe, about your thoughts on. I don't think you don't want to boast about any other competitors or how good Campos are going to be this year, but do you have a person in mind who you think may be taking the crown this year in Formula 3?
I think I have to agree on with Flores. I think Arthur has most of the lottery tickets to win it. So I mean, he has. Was exactly what Flores was saying. I mean, he has that second year, so he knows most of the tracks with the car. He knows Zandvoort, for example, which is probably going to be one of my biggest challenges this year, and he just has gotten more to grips than anyone else in the F3. I think because he ended last year in a high, and he was probably one of the quickest in the end of last year. So probably has most of it to win, but I mean, we'll see. Like we were saying earlier, I think there's going to be a lot of challenges. I mean, Stanek, for example, he's someone who's been underseen, and I think third year going into this championship, he can for sure be a challenger. So I think we're just going to have to wait and see how the season goes.
Alex, you're going to be watching for the first time in a while as just somebody enjoying Formula 3, 30 cars that you don't have to be mindful of for a whole season. How are you looking forward to that for one, and going to Bahrain again?
Well, very much looking forward to. Yeah, it sounds really daft, but I mean, you're obviously a fan when you're commentating on it, but it's a different experience when you're able to actually watch it. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm still going to be watching it. I'm still going to be, I'm still going to be trying to get a tabard and go and watch it trackside, because there is nothing like 30 cars. And Bahrain is good for overtaking for Formula One. So good luck to you, Harry Benjamin. Bahrain, lap one, everyone everywhere. Oh man, I mean, when it's entertaining at Paul Ricard, you know that it's going to be. I mean, I can't imagine being in the middle of it. You're not wrong about the depth of. I'm just looking at the grid here. The depth of talent. You can make a case for. You can definitely make a case for 15, 16, 17 drivers winning. Not the whole thing, but winning races. And that means that you're going to have someone genuinely talented, a lot of ability, in about 15th place in the championship. And I think it is one of the more brutal in if you look at junior sport and you look at development of people up the ladder, I'm not sure there's anything quite like Formula 3 for the way that it just demands you to be excellent, and it can be pretty unforgiving. So good luck, Pepe.
Thank you.
Good luck with that.
I'll need it.
But no, I'm looking forward to seeing how you're getting on. Yeah, so many good dynamics there. But no, one of the strongest fields I've seen on paper ever. And I hope it lives up to the billing. I hope it's competitive. I hope it's not one team dominating. And I hope it's the championship that I think we got at points last year where the driver's making the difference. The driver is able to circumvent whatever restrictions they might have, and I hope it's that. And as for the spectacle at Bahrain, I think it's going to be wild. I think it's going to be absolutely wild, and it will definitely be. I think race one will definitely be one to see the flag.
I'm going to have to ask this now, because you have no concern about having a bias to a driver when you're commentating, because you're not commentating it. So you don't have to go all political. But do you have a person or people that you think might be looking at a crown at the end of the year?
I think Ollie Behrman. I think, I mean, Forrest said it, to win those championships in the same year. I'm trying to think of precedents of winning concurrent championships. But the strength of doing it in Italy and Germany, I don't know. I think it underlines that he's a talent there. I mean, Arta last year was so unlucky; it was almost comical. So you just think that maybe he'll get it paid back. But no, for me, I think that again, it's the start thing. I think if Ollie Behrman gets a good start, gets early confidence, then I think it's bad news for everyone else. But I want Formula 3 to be a championship where it is wide open and it's not just a team. And you have to get into a certain team in order to take the crown. So I hope that's. I hope it's tight. And I don't think we've mentioned Victor Martins. He was, considering he was with MP Motorsport and he was alongside his championship rival from the year before, which I think is an interesting call from a team dynamics point of view, to put someone that you've just beaten to a title. And I think that he will be in the conversation as well, because he needs to force himself into the conversation, because there were plenty of times last year where he was unlucky and obviously had that batch in the middle. But yeah, I think Ollie Behrman, if he gets a good start, will be the champion.
Great shout. I can't wait to see. I really can't wait to see how the season shakes out. It's so good to see Formula 2 and Formula 3 racing together on the same weekend as well. Going to be Formula 1, Formula 2 and Formula 3 all this weekend. Cannot wait. But as much as we could ask questions all day to both of you, F1 Feeder Series isn't for us, it's for our audience, and we want to make sure that everybody feels involved. So we're moving on to the part of the podcast where our viewers and listeners have their say with hashtag AskF1FS. And as you may expect, Alex and Pepe have questions galore coming in. Floris, I'll make sure you have to answer some as well, so you don't get forgotten there. But if this is your first time watching or listening, you can get involved by using the hashtag AskF1FS on Twitter, joining our Discord and using the podcast questions channel, or simply commenting on our YouTube videos and asking whatever it is that's on your mind. Now, the first one goes to you, Pepe, but I think, Alex, you may have views on it as well. So we'll come to you afterwards. And this comes from Aviral Srivastava, who asks, what is better, driving in a lower category and fighting for the championship, or learning a year in a higher one?
I think definitely learning a year in a higher one. I mean, there's always that saying, no, you have to get up from when you fall down. And I think F motorsport, especially motorsport, we always have this saying at home, is for 1,000 bad moments, you have one good one. And I think motorsport is really it's unfortunately really, really, really unrewarding for what it is. But I mean, but it's I think definitely being in a higher category, because you learn much more, you experience, you get much more experience. Even if you get less running, like for example, F3 this year, we have 45 minutes of free practice and 2 races and one qualified. Like that's it. That's all we have 9 times. And obviously it's very little running, but all you can, like, if you're a sponge and you absorb everything, you can gain so much knowledge and so much from just that little amount of running. So it's definitely being in a high category.
I'll be curious to see where you end up next year based on that comment, Pepe. Alex, is it as clear cut as that, or is getting a championship something that's crucial to getting your name noticed?
I think that I think you can spin it both ways, but for me, you have to be in the conversation. You have to be where the eyeballs are, and the eyeballs are in this case. If it was something off the Grand Prix weekend versus F3, I'd want to be in F3. And I'd want to do my due diligence. I'd want to be with a team that has a good culture, has a culture of developing drivers. I mean, Pepe's with Campos, for example. So that is baked in. They've always had that there. That's part of their makeup. You can't make up the numbers. You can't just take any seat. You have to take you have to do your due diligence and understand that you're going to be at a place where you're listened to and there aren't any shenanigans. And if that's the case, then you always want to be in the bigger category. If you have no other option, then hang back, contend. But ultimately, if you want to be in F3, if you want to be in F2, I think it's changed in recent years. I think you want to get in there and start learning.
Is that something you echo as well, Floris?
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. Look, you have different kinds of drivers. I think some who pick up immediately, some who take a little bit longer to develop. So maybe it's also it depends a little bit on the driver. It also depends a little bit on money. Can you afford to do 6 years of feeder series? That's a lot of money. So. I think it purely depends on the driver, but I also get like where Pepe's coming from, that you have to keep challenging yourself, and you don't want to stand still and just you'll find out if it's too high for you or not.
I agree, and we'll see, Pepe, how you go this year as well. Maybe we'll see you in F2 before we know it. That would be quite a sight. Next question comes from...
Quite a sight, absolutely.
The next question is for you as well, Pepe. It comes from Alex #KA99, who wants to know, how hard is the jump from F4 to F3? You spoke already about going from karting to single-seaters, but between the F4 and the F3 car?
Yeah, well, I jumped straight from F4 to actual FIA F3 because obviously Formula Regional was after, and I actually went there with 0 testing, absolutely. So my first experience with an F3 was in Valencia, so it was massive change. I mean, especially if it's Formula Regional, you can somewhat like carry over some things and like understand and slowly get yourself to grips, but with the F3 it's just everything happens so much quicker. I mean, you're going straights take nearly twice less, corners you go 20 kilometers per hour. I mean, turn 1 Valencia in F4 is 170 minimum speed, and then the F3 was 220. It's absolutely outrageous the amount of the difference it is. So it's really hard to get to grips, especially with the power, with the aero. Getting comfortable with the aero is super, super, super important in the F3, and it's really complicated coming with a car that basically is 0. So it's definitely complicated, but I mean, as slowly as you get to it, once you start getting comfortable with the car, it's really, really fun to drive, and you start getting, first of all, you get neck ache the first day, but yeah, you slowly get to grips, and it's very, very fun.
Have you had to adapt your pre-season prep, take away from the winter series, for going into F3 then, with your training for your neck, for example?
I didn't really change it. It's just I added everything a little more. It was more more often. Instead of doing 4 times a week, I was doing every single day for 2.5 weeks straight. I was doing neck, I was doing legs, I was doing chest, I was doing everything, basically everything you can think of, I was doing a little bit. And obviously it was a really rushed pre-season because we didn't know I was going to have F3 agent until it was 3 weeks prior to the race, so to the first race. So it was a really rushed pre-season, but yeah, it's really hard physically in any single car.
My heart bleeds to somebody who finds out he goes and enjoys some time in Dubai 3 weeks before they actually have to go there. It must be so difficult for you, Pepe. This question is for Alex, and it's from Alex, and he wants to know, which drivers have impressed you the most throughout your career commentating? You've commentated on so many, after all.
Wow. I think I always mentioned that, I mean, it's not the most inventive answer, but I always mention F2 in 2018 because we had a championship battle between Alex Albon, Lando Norris, and George Russell. And I thought it was good at the time. And in a few years' time in Formula One, it might look even better. So, yeah, that was pretty special. Obviously, Charles Leclerc, the way he won his year. I always feel very sorry for Stoffel Van Dorn. I think the Formula E season last year just summed up for Stoffel Van Dorn's luck. All the talent in the world, just sometimes wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes that was on the apex when he was getting nailed by another driver. But he did such a good job in 2015 in GP2, and then gets into McLaren. If he gets into McLaren 4 years later, totally different story. I think he's in Formula One for years. So I always am a little bit sad that it didn't quite work out for Stoffel. But hopefully by the end of this, I don't commentate on Formula E, so I can be as biased as I like. Hopefully he gets his title, because he deserves recognition for his ability and his racecraft. And yeah, I hope he gets some good luck for a change. So he's the one that I feel like deserved longer in Formula One. But no, that standout season was 2018.
Yeah, for sure. Not so much a standout season, but a standout moment is the focus of this question from Dan. Again to you, Alex. So wants to know, what's your favourite moment you've commentated on during feeder comms?
I think 2017, we had an enormous rain delay for Formula One qualifying at Monza. And we had this, and in the commentary box, I'm thinking, well, they're never going to start this race now, so we'll end up doing the feature race tomorrow, which is ironically what the format is now. So they were ahead of their time. But I basically decided, pack up, all right, and I'm sitting in the comm box with a sound engineer, and it comes through, the race is going to start, and I'm like, it's going to be dark by the time we finish. And it was. And in the comm box, it was just the most fantastic race. You had De Vries going for it. You had Leclerc in the mix in his championship year. Luca Giotto won. I mean, the battles were outrageous. It was just never ending. And halfway through a battle for the lead, really towards the end, it's just before De Vries and Leclerc make contact, and Charles went mad on the radio. And Davide Valsecchi was commentating with me that day, and he can see how much I'm getting into it, and it's, mile a minute stuff. And he just leans up and takes a selfie halfway through the commentary for a battle for the lead. So that whole, and I've still got the photo, and he's like this, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, the race is on the line here, and you're taking selfies. So that moment of stupidity in the middle of a genuinely amazing race. And then Luca Giotto won the race and then got disqualified. So Antonio Fuoco didn't lead a lap, won the race. I mean, I think that as an entire package was just, it was just joyous, and it was just a bit daft, and it was great fun. And the other one is Raffaele Marcello Pierre Gasly side by side to the line, 2016 GP2. I love that moment, and that was also with Valsecchi, and then Gasly got disqualified, so that one didn't exist either. So just two races where the winner wasn't really the winner, but yeah, they're the ones that stick in my mind. But the thing is, it is like saying pick your favorite chocolate. There's so much entertainment. There are so many amazing stories. There's so many options for Formula 3 and Formula 2 that, you know, I've done 7 seasons and there's enough in there for a lifetime of commentary. So I'm very lucky to have done the job. But those two stand out.
It says something how excited you are now and how you were the animated one when you got Davide in the comms box with you, who is, let's say, well known for his excitement. That
Yes.
it just shows how much you must have enjoyed it. This next question's a bit of a curious one, and I'm going to go to you, Pepe. And I say this because of your 10 years. You're 16, right?
Yes.
But I get the impression you've got good F1 history knowledge. That Juliana wants to know, if you were to time travel and attend any old F1 race live, bearing in mind old could be 2021 or 2020, what would it be and why?
I think there's probably, I don't want to say one, I want to say more than one. But if I probably had to choose one just to see how the hell he did it, Donington 91. I think that, it wasn't 91? I think it was 91, wasn't it?
93, I think the one you mean. Senna's first lap.
Yeah, 93.
Yeah.
And how he won, like he won lapping all the way up to P3, I think. I was like, what? Like if that happens nowadays and everybody will be on social media for about a month and a half, just still like glorifying the driver. So I think that one's definitely on my list. And another one which I would love to watch live, like because I watched it at home, but I would like to like watch it live, is Valencia 2012. I think that one was proper race, and obviously being Fernando who ended up winning it for me was very special. So yeah, that's definitely another one.
I'm curious to know if you're actually going back just to see that Sonic the Hedgehog trophy in real life, because that was one of the most bizarre trophies Formula One's ever had. Alex, same question to you, and I'm going to exclude this from you because you've attended so many races recently. How about one prior to your career?
I'd like to sit at the end of the Kemmel Straight and watch Mika Hakkinen overtake Michael Schumacher in 2000, because I think sometimes you see amazing goals scored in football, and I think you got a hint of it in Abu Dhabi last year, where the crowd don't cheer. They just make a noise of astonishment, and it's like half screaming, half impressed, half bewildered. And I imagine that's the cheer that went up when Mika pulled that move on Michael. So I'd love to have seen that with my own eyes. And I actually think Donington 93 is an outstanding shout, because of course Donington hosted races in the 1930s and pre-war Grand Prix. They got one race, and it's got to be the best piece of business any circuit has ever done. We'll just get a moment of Formula One, just this iconic moment of Formula One history, and that's it. All right, and now we could have it again, but what would the point be? It's not going to happen again. So yeah, that would be fairly special. And then I don't know, maybe go and sit at the grandstand at the chicane for Senna and Prost in the end at the end of the 90s. I think that would be fairly special. 89, see all that unfold. Old school Suzuka, those cars. Yeah, I think I'd probably go for that. But then also you get greedy with it, don't you? And I'd like to see Jim Clark drive a Lotus with my own eyes. So I will end up listing nothing, but I think my top one would be Michael Spa 2000.
It's a great shout.
Can I add another one?
I'll let you add one more before we go to the next question.
Just one more. I think another one and I think all three will agree with me that this one is a very good shout. Jerez 97.
Yeah.
I think that would be mad to see with your own eyes. Like just see Villeneuve dive bomb from like 2.5 car lengths back from like nowhere near close to like send place. and he just makes it stick. Schumacher turns in, then he gets it stored. I think it would just all be like pure, like just everything going on. So I think that's another one.
The fact that Villeneuve tried to overtake at Jerez would be an amazing thing to see. That would be remarkable.
I would like to go back and just to see what the hell happened with the timing on that race and on that weekend in qualifying, because of the three drivers all at the exact same time. When does that happen? I've got to imagine there was an error or something. It's just crazy that could happen at the season finale as well. Fantastic stuff.
Can you imagine the timing department? I know the people who work in the timing department these days. Can you imagine the amount of shouting going on whilst that was going on? All right, that's unusual. Let's just keep up. Right, hold on.
Yeah.
Someone's calling on the red phone. We're all getting fired.
That would be the FIA radio that we'd want to hear. Imagine Toto and Christian going nuts about that today. On the other side of the spectrum from interesting races, this one comes from Carilli and wants to know, Alex, how do you approach commentating on a boring race?
Oh. Well, you actually have to earn your money for a change rather than just, watch the checks rolls and have a great time and talk with some motor racing icons. Yeah, you actually to be honest, there's a nice challenge to that in that you're building the narrative. There was a GP3 race in Barcelona, I want to say 2016, where no one overtook after lap one. And I remember thinking, and I was doing the race on my own, which thankfully doesn't happen anymore. And I remember thinking, someone's got to get past someone. And that's why you prep for races. And yeah, it felt like 4 hours. It felt like it was never going to end. And there's only so many times you can say where the driver is from and what the driver has previously won before you're insulting everyone's intelligence at home. So, there's a challenge to it. But thankfully, with the championships I've been lucky enough to cover, it's not often a problem.
I was going to say, it's nothing you're going to really have to be that concerned about all that often. And you don't even have Formula 3 to help you this year. It would never happen in Formula 3, would it? This is a tough question, and I suspect I know what the answer is. And again, this is to you, Alex. Every Euro 2018 truther wants to know, have you ever felt legitimately upset at something you've commentated over, and what was it?
Unfortunately, the horrible scenes of Spa in 2019 was just an awful weekend, and it was very affecting for everyone involved. Not that I'm making myself part of it at all, but it was to be in an environment and to see all of your friends and colleagues go through that. I've been very fortunate with my family. My grandparents lived until they were old. I'd never been through the experience of speaking to someone a couple of hours before and they're no longer with us a couple of hours later. And, it's just bleak and horrible. And I hope his family can find peace with it. And I hope we never stop striving for the safety, because it was raw and it's forever upsetting. It's the reason that I think you go into commentary, or certainly the reason that I went into commentary, is the people I heard commentating when I was a kid made it this joyful, exciting, engaging thing. And so when the horror of the outside world, invades your nice piece of not escapism, but the thing that you invest in and the thing that you look forward to when you wake up, when that's then invaded by injury or death, it's brutal and horrible. And we need to keep pushing the safety so it doesn't happen.
Is this something, Pepe, as follow-up questions, and one from the audience, and Floris, Pepe and Floris here, that we're seeing changes now to Eau Rouge and Radeon based off how dangerous it got last year as well. Purists don't like this, but do you think Alex is right that the pursuit of safety should be paramount ahead of keeping tradition? Let's go with you first, Pepe.
I think going for safety is always the right reason. It's always the right choice. Doesn't matter if the cars are a little bit slower. Doesn't matter if they're a bit heavier. Doesn't matter if safety is always important. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's like main thing, and obviously it's not for anyone, it's just for us, it's for the drivers. I mean, it's obviously every time there's an improvement for safety, even if like for drivers, we're always complaining because we're drivers and we're always complaining. And but for example, for me, obviously when they said that the new F4 was going to drive with a halo, it's like it's completely good. Like the good of like it's just right. I mean, it's right because, for example, in our season in F4, there was one crash which is really, really close in Jerez in the hairpin, but one car just went over the other. And there was also one flip in Barcelona in testing. There was one car that went into the back of the other, and it flipped and it landed on the robot. The robot broke. So it's obviously going for safety is all the right reason. I mean, there's drivers that have been really close and have experienced what is really like, for example, I don't want to say the word, but near death moments. And it's not fun for anyone. And I mean, I know more than one who have quit because of that reason, and I fully understand it.
Floris, is this right that we want to see more runoff? We want to see additional driver safety, or do you think having traditional tracks and their old layout to potentially help in comparing different seasons, is that more important?
No. For me, everything for safety. It's just some people just have a little bit of difficulty adjusting. I remember when what Pepe said when the halo came into talks. I myself was like, yeah, I don't know, it doesn't really look good. And then you had a couple of F1 drivers who were like, no, I'm not going to drive with it. And then the second they're incorporated, everybody's like, oh, this is no problem. It's safer. It actually looks pretty cool. So everything for safety for me. And at Spa, of course, you have to have more runoff because with the Hubert accident, there were tens of accidents like that, which miraculously went well. Like in F1, I've seen cars like Villeneuve and Sonta after one another, bouncing back on the track, spinning with the 300k an hour.
W Series last year as well.
Yeah, exactly. So
or Jack Aitken was another one, a big crash in GTs.
I think if we had to list all of the big accidents there, I mean, I can think of at least 5 that I've commentated on, and I started in 2015. Like, the changes are overdue at that corner, and I understand that you don't want to change a piece of motor racing heritage, but it's already been changed. It doesn't look the same as it did in the 40s. It doesn't look the same as it did in the 60s. It doesn't look the same as it did when Senna was going up the hill. And then it's always evolving. Motor racing circuits are always evolving. So I'm glad they've made the changes there because
there's we're not, F1 is not driving at the Nordschleife anymore. That has a reason.
Yeah.
Well, that's some heavy stuff. So let's go with something a little bit lighter. This one comes from Jeff, the engineer, and wants to know to you, Alex, what's the best location you've ever visited while traveling for comms? And I'll do this as 2 parts, actually, which is my take on it. 1, best place for holiday sort of area, and 2, the best facilities as a commentator.
I have to say, usually if you mention the venue beginning with M, you're on the right track. I loved going to Malaysia. I loved going to Sepang in 2016. That was a fantastic city, and I expected to not enjoy it, but I thought the humidity would be a bit too much. So that was a great holiday venue. That was just we stayed out of town. There's a nice resort, and that was great. And then Mexico City. I mean, it is absolutely phenomenal. The support there and the location, the fact that you're right in the city, you're not 45 minutes out of town. And, I hate to be a typical commentator, but the food there, I mean, come on, it's unbelievable. It's so good. So those 2 stand out for me.
Well, you probably don't know this actually, Alex, but I'm actually in Mexico right now, and I could attest to authentic tacos for all of about £1. It is terrific. So I completely understand that. Just going to go for a final couple here. These ones go on to you, Pepe, and I'm going to back them up a little bit because they tie in slightly. So F3 Euro 2018 Truther again wants to know, would you say you have any rivals in your racing career, people that you've raced against frequently? And on the other hand, Alice KA99 wants to know who your best friend is in F3.
Rivals over the years, I think there's many. Because if you look, I've said this many times, and if you look at 2018, 2019 karting European World Championship grids, it's literally FRAC, F4 and F3. There's nothing more. And it's, to be honest, my OKJ 2019 grid was absolutely outrageously competitive. It was so hard to get in. Like, being consistent was something nobody did. Like, I think I don't remember who won European that year. It was Amand, and Marcus Amand. He wasn't extremely quick. He was just consistent all round. He had one win in the Europeans and won the championship. But if you look over the year, how complicated it was to be competitive, it was so difficult. And if you look at the rivals that I've had, I mean, I can say Thomas Ten Brink, for example, who fortunately is no longer racing, but he was one of my best mates as well. There's many, like Delano, there's Aaron at some point, Kayaski, James Wharton, there's so many, Nikita Bedrin, for example, Alex Dunn. There's so many good drivers who I've gone against, and there's a lot. And best friend wise, honestly, I get along with most of the drivers. I try to get along with everyone, because in the end, you're going to share a whole year with everyone, so you want to have a good relationship with everyone. But this year in F3, I don't really know anyone. It's just because everybody's in regional this year for the ones I know, so I don't really know much. But if I had to say, one of my best mates for this year is probably my teammates, because I've already got. I knew David from Sony Car back in the day, and Hunter's a really, really nice kid. Arthur is already a really nice kid. Leclerc, well, he's not a kid anymore, but he's a really nice guy. And it's like I was saying, it's everybody tries to get along. Of course, there's some who are less friendly, or some that are more friendly. So, but I mean, it's the same in life. So.
Well, myself, Floris, and Alex all see all of you as kids, so thanks for making us feel really old with those comments, Pepe.
Old man Leclerc, bad luck.
I mean, what do you want? He's 5 years older than me. So.
Yeah, well, we're all 6 years older, if it makes us feel a little better. That's going to be time. I know, Alex, you're going to be running off now, and we just want to thank all of you for joining us. It's all we have time for this week. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. If you'd like to have your question asked on a future episode, use the hashtag AskF1FS on Twitter. Drop any questions below if you're watching on YouTube, or let us know what questions you have on your mind on our Discord. Look for the podcast questions channel. And if you are watching on YouTube, dropping a like on the video, leaving a comment and subscribing all really helps us out. And if you're listening, leaving a review on the podcast platform you're listening on is greatly appreciated. Finally, be sure to check out f1feederseries.com for more feeder series insight, and follow F1 Feeder Series 1, F1FS Americas, and F1FS Live on Twitter. You can find the links to all of those, plus the Twitter accounts of myself and everybody else on the podcast, in the YouTube description or the podcast show notes. Until next time, we have been the F1 Feeder Series podcast. Goodbye.